Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to Gabriel Agaprod. And it's official, I have this amazing announcement to make. This time we have a very different type of video in this channel. This is the first video of an indie game devlog. That's right, I started to create an indie game 2 weeks ago, and this is something that I've been planning and thinking about for a very long time. It's something that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to bring game development videos to this channel and to create a game from start to finish. And I really hope that you can all enjoy this journey with me. Don't worry, I will still be posting tutorials from every now and then, but please let me know what you think about this new type of videos, what I could improve or what you would like to see as well. So here's the first game development video that I prepared with what we have done so far. So first things first, I really wanted to make sure that I finished this game, you know? So from what I gathered from personal experience and from other game developers, is that the best way to fail is a lack of a plan. Planning is preparing to have success. Planning decreases the possibility of failure and unnecessary waste of time. So I started by planning very carefully what the game is going to be, and start to impose barriers on what the game will have. So I created this game design document, where I have gathered the original idea for the story, which I don't want to spoil very much for now. Also gathered the feature it will have, the enemies, the allies, the scenarios that we will need to create. And I'm saying we because my girlfriend, Marisa, is also going to be part of this project. She's going to participate as an illustrator and as an animator as well, which is really awesome. How did I manage to know what enemies or scenarios or even puzzles that I needed? What I conclude is that the narrative will drive the features of the game. A story will help to bring forward what is needed. So before I even knew what the enemies are going to be or the scenarios that we needed to create, I started by simply creating a story. I have always enjoyed writing, so this was actually easy for me. But I wrote this story in a way like someone who writes a play for a theater or a script for a movie. I know exactly what are the scenes that I'm going to need, if there is a cutscene or if there is dialogue, the puzzles, the abilities, the tutorials. Basically, the more I know about the game on paper, the better. And to me right now, this is one of the most important pieces of our future game. This is the backbone of the future of this game development. And this helped me a lot to understand what are the basic stuff that I'm going to need. For example, it's going to be a 2D platformer, adventure / puzzle / action, which means I know I need to have a character that moves into this space, that has animations as well, and I needed a camera to follow that character, as well as the parallax effect, which isn't that hard to implement. And I need scenes, or as Thomas Brush calls them, frames. And by the way, if you haven't already, go check out Thomas Brush, he's a great inspiration and a great game developer as well. All of these things that I have listed are features that I can start working on. And I know that I will need them, and I know that I won't be wasting time creating them and not using them in the end, you know? So to start I need a character, and thankfully I had this amazing list of characters that my girlfriend created a few months ago. Like I said, she's going to be responsible for creating the characters, their animations, some parts of the scenarios. She's an amazing illustrator, and she's going to bring an enormous help to this project. So I pick up this rabbit basically, and actually the story starts to revolve around him. So the end version may or may not look like this, we will see. There are going to be a lot of changes. So I pick up the rabbit Photoshop file with all of these layers, which I merged and end up with all the parts that I needed to animate, basically. Everything is separated by layers, so Unity can immediately recognize them. And one thing that I know that it's going to be really necessary in my game is animations of 2D characters. So I used this package from Unity, the 2D animation package, which is great actually. It's not yet finished, but it's looking awesome, and it has this possibility of creating bones. which is an awesome feature that Unity has finally introduced. And I imported my character as a PSB file, which would allow Unity to detect all the layers easily. And I'm still wondering if that's the best method or if I should export each layer as a PNG. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about it. So once I opened the sprite editor, I had access to each layer, and if I needed, I could adjust this easily. Now in the skinning editor I was able to add bones, as you can see, which I have already done. And this is pretty cool because it allows me to control how the mesh is created, in case I needed to add a new vertex or whatnot. Corrected the weights as well, see what else I needed, and adjusted all of these and end up with a rigged 2D character. Which is awesome because now this allows me to create animations. But before the animations, I also added inverse kinematics to help move the arms and legs too. So that's what I did. I created an idle animation. They are not looking really great for now, but it's just for testing, you know? It's just for me to start creating the code and the basics for the game. So it doesn't really matter if they are looking really good, the animations. It's just for testing. So once I had the idle animation, the walk animation and the run animation, I created this animator controller where I would basically control this blend tree and switch between idle, walk and run as well. Of course, in a keyboard this won't be noticed, but with a gamepad you can move the character slowly and it looks like it's walking, and then you can run and it looks like it's running. So I also created the scripts for him to move, obviously, which were actually inspired by these tutorials from Brackeys. I found them very helpful to get me started, and of course I had to give it a few tweaks to my own needs, but once I had the scripts working well with the animations, I was able to start moving the rabbit around, jump, and it also worked with the Xbox controller, which is great. And of course there's a lot of room for improvement, but these are the first steps, obviously. So the next thing I could easily set up in my first day was the camera movement. And all I had to do was use the Cinemachine package from Unity, which is a really powerful camera rig, and this allowed me to create a virtual camera that all I needed was to set up the target of the camera to be the rabbit. I also repositioned the camera as I like it, and it was almost ready. All I had to do now was add a confiner to the camera, and the confiner uses a polygon collider 2D, so the camera knows what are the boundaries basically. It's super cool and super easy to use. With that being done, the camera was now following the player, and it was confined to the boundaries that I set up earlier, which is pretty cool. So that was my first day, basically. The rabbit animations, the rabbit movement, and the camera following the rabbit as well. And I also had to clean up all the layers of the rabbit, but it was a good first day. The second day I wanted to have a scenario so I could test the parallax effect and implement a frame management system or a scene management system. So fortunately I had these scenarios that I have illustrated for another game that I was working on a few years ago, and I was able to reuse this part so I could test a few things. And I made it really white and made sure every layer was cleaned. You know, I also merged them like I did with the rabbit, and I end up with only these layers. And once again I also imported this as a PSB file, and the cool thing about it is that I can directly import to the scene and everything is exactly in the same place as in Photoshop, which is pretty cool, right? And that's it. So now for the parallax to work, I needed these layers to be scattered across the Z-axis. Basically the one that is further away in the Z-axis will move less, which is basically the sky. And it also means that the closer things to the camera will move more. So I set up the layers like this, and then I added a few scripts that I actually found on Unity Answers, and I gave it a try. I added one script for each layer to move at a certain speed, and another script to the camera, so it basically tells the layers to move according to the camera position. And this was without any parallax effect, right? It's pretty simple, it's pretty boring. And now this is how it looks with a simple parallax effect. It's looking much better, right? I was really pleased with this end result. It was working well, but of course I had to adapt a lot to code that I found to work with the container, the camera and a few other things as well. But it was looking really good, and it was around 5 o'clock of my second day of development, and it was going pretty well in my opinion. Now the last thing I did in my second day of development was to implement this, which is a frame manager. And I had to adapt quite a few things from the camera and the parallax and the container as well, but basically this hides all the other frames or scenes that we aren't using, and it's awesome because it saves a lot of space and computation power as well. And it's also going to be really useful to tell the story that I want, for the puzzles as well. So I was really pleased with my 2 days of game development work. I'm really enjoying this experience so far. This was the first game devlog video. I will try to bring an update every 2 weeks. I have already done quite a few things, but I have to edit the videos and I have to do a bunch of things as well. And I hope you have all enjoyed this. If you have suggestions, please leave them in the comments, and I hope that you will come back for more updates, of course. There's also going to be rewards in my Patreon page related to this game development log, by the way. In case you guys want to support me, besides getting access to a bunch of effects, shaders and much more things for your projects, you will also be part of the development of this game. You can basically get access to builds. I will also try to add a few more rewards, but you will basically also be mentioned in the credits of the game too. And I will add all of these new things to my Patreon page in the next few days. But that's it, I'm really excited for this new experience and to create this game so I can tell the story that I have prepared. It's going to be a long journey, but I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it a lot, and I hope that you are also going to enjoy it. Lastly, I want to say thank you to every patron that has supported me, it means a lot, and I also want to say a special thank you to the super mega patrons, which are CJ, Goblin Plague, Green Fast Data, Igor Okapkin, James Finlay, Ruan Mendiola, Mark Brittingham, Nicholas Javed, Spencer Harrison, Warden Studios, Javier Nguyen, and Yayoni. And I'm sorry if I pronounced any of your names wrong. You guys are awesome and I really appreciate your support. So thanks everyone for watching, and I really hope to see you in the next video.